The wife of a friend of mine studied art in college. She had an art professor that was really into the abstract and kind of the contemporary art, and my friend would make fun of his art. And you see, he did squares, purple and different colors and different sizes and different hues and different line textures, and he would kind of be condescending and put those squares down. And his wife one day looked at him and said, what is it with you? If he likes squares, why is that a problem? It's what's in him. And if he likes squares, what is it to you? And after all, they are really nice squares. This week we're going to talk about calling, but we really can't do that without reviewing the last two. Remember, we started with the concept of character, that really being a steward, being a house manager of all that is God's, it begins with the development of who we are on the inside and the development of all God has made us to be. We move then to the understanding of commission, or our co-mission, putting our mission along with God's mission, accomplishing what He is already doing with what He's given us to do it. Calling now takes it a little bit deeper. It really asks the question of what do we feel specifically equipped and uniquely designed to do within what God is doing around us. The story we look at today is also unique, and maybe is going to raise more questions than it's going to answer. It really is going to beg an answer to the question, what happens when you feel called to do something, uniquely positioned to do something, but seemingly lose your ability to do that?
High school was terrible until my junior year. That's when things became cool. It was a day like any other day. Yeah. One of my buddies stopped me in the parking lot and he's like, hey, we got this great thing we got to show you. Okay, great. Instead of waiting for the buses to leave the parking lot, we cut through a field. My buddy Ed got in the car and said, hey, are you going to smoke? I said, no, I'm not going to have a cigarette. And we switched seats because the driver's side window didn't work. The anticipation was overwhelming. We approached the road. Yeah, like a long road with a very steep hill at the end. It's like you couldn't really, it was more like a painting. It was like a two-dimensional image. I flipped my hat around and I put ski goggles on. We're 16 and driving like mad, well over 90 miles an hour. Josh hit the gas and we all put on our seatbelts and we're gonna jump this hill. We started driving faster and faster and we approached the hill and we went up the hill. My stomach sank. On the other side of the hill, there was a car parked alongside the road. We saw it. I don't know what happened after that, but we landed and we went through several trees. Flipped, crushed the car, practically made a tin can out of it. It was unlike anything I could really explain.
Were the other people in the car?
One got thrown from the car, Justin, and died instantly. And the other, Ed, who was sitting right next to me, where I was originally sitting, was unresponsive.
Seatbelt's still off, right?
Yep.
Alright, we ready?
All right.
Alright, 1, 2, 3. Want us to play back at all?
Nope, good.
Okay,
Good.
I just want to roll it right down there on the corner.
I was born in a small little farm town of about 1,700. I've always wanted to be a hockey player. I was a captain of the hockey team for 3 or 4 years. The year we took state, I was one of the youngest on the team. I had a few passions in life. I'm dyslexic, so really was more of a hands-on guy. I loved motorcycles. I would have loved to have been a motorcycle mechanic. I like to juggle because it set me apart from other people. It was kind of like a unique dorkness. I almost ran away and joined the circus when I was 15. I taught myself how to breathe fire. I put gas in my mouth and then I blew it at a big torch and a big fireball would shoot out, which is not anything I would advise any 15-year-old to do. When I worked at a summer camp, I would grab 3 butcher's knives off the big magnet on the wall and start juggling them in front of the campers. It was like the coolest thing I've ever done. I was so happy with myself. I built my own workshop where I had a big collection of respectable tools. I would go out there at 11 at night and work until 7 or 8 in the morning. I'm the youngest of 9. Ever since I was a child, I was swinging hammers and gluing boards together. I got in trouble for that a few times. And I thought, yeah, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to be a carpenter. That's what I love to do. Or I'm going to ride my motorcycle around the country and juggle. I was invincible. I mean, I could breathe fire, and nothing bad ever happened. So why can't I jump a hill? I remember hearing the sound of sirens, the fire trucks, the helicopter. My arm was wrapped around my head. There was a surreal feeling at first. Can't feel my legs. Can't move anything. Yeah, this is really bad. I woke up briefly getting loaded into the air ambulance. I yelled, I said, "Hey guys, if you're still alive, pray that God will take you to heaven if you die." I gave them the names of Ed and Justin and Josh. Then that was it. Because I had friends that died, that kind of numbed the pain of being paralyzed.
A special presentation to be made. Andy Phelps, this is for you, a former football player, for being the devoted fan that you are. Sincerely, your friends, family, and teammates.
It all hit me at once, what I can't do, what I'm not going to be able to do. Yeah, I might not be a juggler again. I might not be a carpenter again. I might not ride my motorcycle again. I didn't know what to expect as far as a career in my life. There was the why, the big why question, like, Why did we switch seats, even though we ended up both smoking? Why did that happen? Sometimes it was, why did I get to live? And sometimes it was, why did I have to live? I need some kind of career. I didn't know what that looked like. I could have a really easy life, and I don't think anyone would criticize me for it. I could just sit around all day, watch TV, go to the movies, just a happy little quadriplegic along his way. But I wouldn't be satisfied with that. It was kind of difficult at first, but it was the first thing I could really do by myself.
There's an almost inexplicable spiritual significance to working with one's hands. We're not just minds. We're minds and bodies, and one doesn't exist without the other.
I don't know if there's any other quads out there that edit film. Usually it's one hand on the mouse and one hand on the keyboard. I don't have that luxury, so I just make do with one finger that sticks out of my mouth, essentially. Most editors would probably pull their hair out or go nuts. So I take a little bit of pride in that. I'm a little cocky about that sometimes. Even though, it'd be nice to have hands that work that can hit all the buttons, it's still just hitting buttons.
I was wired to work with my hands, wired to be creative with my talents, and I think really wired to work with three-dimensional objects. So here I am.
Editing is a very hands-on profession. It's the same thing when I'm building, or when I was building. I think having a final product is key in anything I do, like with the desk I built. That desk is always going to be there. I want to make stuff. That's all that matters. Switching seats right before you get in a wreck and, the place where you were sitting, the guy died. That's something that haunted me for years. Why did that happen? But it doesn't matter if I'm paralyzed or if I'm mute or if I'm blind or if I'm deaf or if I'm just fine. I need to build stuff or write stuff or do something that's going to entertain or educate or make people feel better. It has nothing to do with, because I can't walk. It's like, well, no, this is who I am.
Just think about that. You had a particular skill, or you thought you had a particular calling or a particular commission, and suddenly an auto accident takes away your ability to accomplish that. This young man, his story's fairly unique. If the injury is an inch lower, he has complete use of his arms. An inch higher, and he has no use of his arms at all. Where this injury is at, he's lost the use of his hands. You saw the furniture he created. It was beautiful. He obviously had a skill and ability, but could it be that his skill and ability really was the creativity or the vision that he saw, what he could see in his mind's eye, what actually the art was? And the use of his hands didn't limit who he was on the inside. The use of his hands just may have simply altered his calling. Let's move specifically into a discussion about calling. I guess I would prefer at this point to maybe take that word kind of literally to understand it. God does give us specific desires, specific dreams, specific visions. He has given us a temperament. He's given us ability. The calling that he gives us will align with that. In his grace, he calls us to places and positions and situations that he has uniquely developed us and placed us on the face of the earth to do. When we do get involved at that level, we start seeing things through God's eyes. We hear him saying, come here, do this. This is what I've created you to do. That can be a bit frightening. Sometimes we shy away from that. We may even at times want to turn and run. Come with me to 1 Kings chapter 19, and let's start at verse 10. The context here is Elijah has just been tremendously successful. He has just defeated the prophets of Baal and the enemies of God. Something kind of unique happens, though, maybe something we wouldn't imagine. One woman threatens his life, one person, and he sets off running in fear. The word of the Lord came to him, to Elijah. What are you doing here, Elijah? He replied, I've been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, have put your prophets to death with the sword. I'm the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. The Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then the voice said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? Interestingly enough for Elijah, the call of God to him was actually voiced in the negative. It was a question of, Elijah, what are you doing here when you know you should be here, when you should be passing the mantle or the responsibility or the leadership of the children of Israel to Elisha? Elijah, like all of us, knew that was the next step, knew that after the defeating of Baal, that he was going to be involved in the bringing of the children of Israel back into obedience of God Almighty through Elisha. But it was kind of a frightening calling. He was one man against a very powerful leader. He was one man against a very powerful army. But what Elijah needed to be reminded of is that he was one man partnering with God, that he was one man called by the Almighty, that he was one man with abilities and experience and understanding who was being beckoned by God to partner with him in bringing the children of Israel back to what they were called to do. There are three takeaways from this passage that we want to make sure we get. The first one is that our calling is not free from turmoil. It's not going to be a situation where God is going to call us to things that don't have consequence, that aren't going to be part of a great thing that he's doing. And oftentimes when we are doing great things, they come with pushback or they come with struggle. We also see with Elijah that turmoil doesn't get us off the hook. That just because it's hard, that doesn't mean we get a pass on stewardship. No, God has created us with such unique abilities and such unique calling and with such unique past experiences that develop who we are, that what we bring to his creative activity really is of vital importance. The third takeaway is that when God calls us, remember he's calling us to be active with him. Not unlike someone saying, come here and join me, come and join in this game, come and join in this activity, come and join in what I'm doing. He's calling us to be with him in his creative activity, to be with him in his redemption of the world, to be with him in bringing heaven to earth in the activities of every day. How does it change how you view what God is calling you to do when you consider that he's there doing it with you? How does it alter your sense of courage when you know that when God says, come here, when God says, join me, when God says, labor with me in this place, how does that change the way you see it? As you journey through the week, maybe listening would be the appropriate action this week. Can we hear God say, come here and do what I've called you to be good at? Come here and cause this place to look more like me. Come here and cause this situation to have more peace, hope, and joy in it. Don't run from it. If you're a business person, it's a calling. Treat people well. Give them a good, honest product. If you're a janitor, it's a calling. Clean incredibly well as worship to God. If you're a parent, it's a calling. Parent knowing that you've been appointed by God to work in your kids' lives along with Him. And if you're a painter, paint really good squares. It's a calling.